Imagine waking up and finding yourself a year or two younger. That's what's happening to South Koreans. A law passed last December, scrapping the traditional method of counting someone's age, came into effect on Wednesday.
내년이면 서른인데
I'm supposed to be 30 next year under the traditional Korean age system, but with the international age, I'm 2 years younger. It's great to feel like I'm getting younger.
Traditionally, South Koreans are deemed to be a year old at birth, and every January 1st, a year is added to a person's age. The country has used the international norm of calculating from zero at birth and adding a year on every birthday since the early 1960s. But that's mainly for medical and legal documents, while the traditional method was used for everything else.
영국으로 유학을 가게 되기 때문에
I'm going to study abroad in the UK, so I think it's less confusing that I don't need to explain about Korean age and just can say my international age in other countries.
At a briefing earlier this week, a cabinet minister said he hopes the change will ease confusion, especially among older people who may believe they are eligible for senior benefits before they legally are.
We expect that legal disputes, complaints and social confusion that have been caused over how to calculate ages will be greatly reduced.
Maybe, maybe not. South Korea is still keeping another age system, where a person's age is calculated from zero at birth, like the international norm, but a year is added every January 1st, instead of on the date of birth. That system will still be used for compulsory military service, the school year, and in determining the legal age for drinking and smoking.
20살 됐는데도
I was worried that I would be banned from drinking, but I'm relieved I can still drink.
South Korea now joins other East Asian countries who dropped the traditional age counting method decades ago. Florence, Looi, Al Jazeera.
Se-Woong Koo, a South Korean journalist and publisher, is joining us now live from Stuttgart in Germany. An interesting change. I was just wondering how many of your friends and family will be very happy to perhaps feel a little bit younger today.
Well, I certainly am happy myself, considering that under the old system in Korea, I was 44, but now I'm 42. And but in reality, in most aspects of life, as your correspondent explained, not a lot of change is to be expected, because in the legal system, in government documents, also in healthcare, the Western way of counting age has in fact been in use for a long time. But as your correspondent also explained, for things such as drinking, buying cigarettes, doing military service, when your children go to school, we're still maintaining the old system.
If I can just jump in there, we'll talk about the impact in a moment. Let's just talk about why the Korean government have decided now is the right time to make that change. Obviously, we know all the details of why it's changing and how it's going to impact on people, but why do you think they've done it now?
Yeah, because it's tremendously confusing for many people. Some people think of how old they are in terms of the Western way of counting. Others do according to Korean way of counting. And there are, in fact, more than one way of doing it the Korean way, so to speak. Yes, you're one when you're born and you turn 1 year older on January 1st. But some people think that your age actually increases with Lunar New Year, not with the solar New Year on January 1st. Some people actually wonder if the birthday has anything to do with it. So you can imagine that this has led to quite a bit of misunderstanding in the past, and the popular support for this change is incredibly high, at some 70% according to most surveys.
You touched on the fact of some areas that it would impact on the day-to-day lives of people getting a bus pass retirement age, buying alcohol, or even the age of consent. But where do you think the biggest difference or the biggest impact will be as time progresses?
I think the biggest impact is in the way people in Korea think about their relations to one another. In Korea, it is very common for someone to assert, let's say, superiority in social hierarchy according to their age. The older you are, more respected you are. And when you ask people how old you are, and many people do, even on meeting someone for the first time, the answer that Koreans usually give is their year of birth, not the actual age. And what the new system now means is that people, in fact, have to be quite precise in saying exactly how old they are. And this will certainly lead to, let's say, renegotiation of dynamic in the social sphere.
Indeed. I mean, I just wondered how much pushback there may be, if any at all, in terms of the generational divide. Perhaps the younger generation are quite perhaps amenable to this. Will the older generation be confused by it all?
I think certainly in some rural communities, you're bound to see pushback or resistance. But overall, Koreans are very quick to embrace change. And this is something that, in fact, many sectors of society have been pushing for a long time. So I don't think that there is going to be a return to the old way of doing things.
I've got to say, Se-Woong Koo, it's good that both you and me look 21 for TV purposes. For your time, thanks very much for joining us from Stuttgart in Germany.
Thank you so much for having me.